Are you okay with the kind of genre name of torture porn?
It's a weird reductive way to like, instead of having a conversation about something, it's a way to just like reduce it into like a buzzword. So it's just not that interesting to me.
I'm Dave Baker, and today we're talking with Ty West about horror trends. You know, for the past decade, we've been kind of living in this horror climate of torture porn and extreme excess, and you don't do that. Your films are very restrained and slow burn. Where does that come from for you?
It's just my aesthetic and my taste. You know, it's not a real choice. It's not oh, I want to do this because someone else is doing that. It's more, this is just, I mean, like, look, if there's ever a day that slow burn type movies are like incredibly popular, I'm going to flourish because it's like so my wheelhouse. But as of right now, it's not. I feel like if it was the 70s, I would be in a great situation. But because it's 2014, it's like, oh, what I'm doing is like different. But it's just, my aesthetics are just not where we're at with whatever the sort of like creative zeitgeist is right now.
Was there a specific filmmaker that you saw making those kind of slow movies when you were younger and were like, oh, this clicks for me for some reason?
No, and also like, again, it's this weird thing where like I don't see them as, I understand that they are less cutty and different than the movies that are out there. But they're not that because of I don't want to do that. It's just, this is just the way, like, no one would call The Shining or Rosemary's Baby or The Exorcist slow burn horror movies, but certainly they are. They're all like 2 hours long, and there's not a lot of, it's slow burn, if you will. But they don't call them that because they've already been like established as just like good movies or whatever. So now when you make a movie that's sort of like taking itself seriously, it's sort of like, oh, you have to label it with some sort of slow burn thing to identify it as something different instead of just like looking at it for what it is. And I think that horror has become, you know, there's the exploitation movies of the 60s and 70s that we all think of when we think of exploitation movies. And then there's the like franchisey sequels of the 80s versions. And then there's the like terrible slasher movies of the 90s version. And then now, or like when you reference the torture porn, things like that, it's just like they're all different versions of exploitation, but they're being less honest about it. Like the movies in the 70s that were exploitative movies were very honest. They're like, we're making a cannibal picture, and this is what it's going to be. And what was great is that there was all these different outlets to sell it to. So you weren't trying to get your cannibal picture into the mainstream. You just sold it to drive-ins and other weird theaters and porn theater, and there was all this stuff. You could go have a total life of a movie without. Now that doesn't exist, so now your cannibal picture has to be like, well, let's not make it too upsetting. Or like this girls in prison movie, well, we got to tone it down. We can't just make it exploitation of like girls in prison. It's like, well, that's what you want to make, but you don't want to do it because you need to get it into an environment that is not going to totally embrace that. Where in the 70s, it could just be nothing but like the exploitative elements, and that's it. And that's all you wanted to go see. And there's just more honesty to it then. So that I connect to better than I do now, which feels like, oh, everything is this weird homogenized thing, and particularly with horror movies, which is about being scary and confronting, just the movies are so safe, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Thank you for coming in and talking to me, Ty.
It's good to be here.